Hi, thank you for joining me at a God Vlog. My name is Scott Elliott. I'm the pastor here at First Congregational United Church of Christ in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Today I'm going to talk about Palm Sunday. The Sunday's Palm Sunday. It's also known as Passion Sunday. And I plan to talk about the Passion part next week, so I thought I'd spend a little time on Palm Sunday. The first Palm Sunday occurred at the very start of Passover week. And everyone who is anybody was arriving in Jerusalem for the celebration. Not just devout celebrants, but rabble-rousers and rebels, and not just Jews, but Roman legions. Pilate, the Roman governor of Palestine, arrived from Caesarea to oversee the added troops and the volatile multitudes that were gathering for a Passover. Pilate proceeded into Jerusalem in a stately fashion, mounted on a well-groomed horse, leading an entourage of spiffed-up legions with all the pomp and circumstances and shiny, gleaming metal befit a man of worldly power and wealth. And he came into Jerusalem from the west in an imperial pageantry, representing not just imperial power, but also imperial theology. The Roman emperor was understood to be the Son of God. And Pilate embodied not only the power of Rome in the world reality, but also a rival theology. And Pilate's entry into Jerusalem was met and was countered by Jesus' supremely ironic and symbolic entry, representing a reign that was in conflict with Rome, the reign of God. It was versus Rome, God versus human power, peace versus war, non-violence versus violence, Christ versus Caesar. And it was met in every way with opposite visual splendor by Jesus and a multitude of adoring followers. It actually is quite clever. The opposite image is humor that Jesus must have come up with on how he came marching in. Matthew, he says that the disciples brought him, Jesus, the donkey and a colt, and put their coats on them as he sat on them, the two of them. And a lot of folks see that description in Matthew of Jesus riding two animals at once as an oversight or lack of care. But I guess I'm kind of like the Uncle Albert in Mary Poppins. I love to laugh, and I think Jesus was being clever. I think his followers were too, and it seems to me a fair read that Matthew is bright enough to get the absurdity of the visual image when he put the words down. And Jesus humbly seated simultaneously, somehow astride both a donkey and a colt. It's like a circus clown parody, a first century Saturday Night Live kind of lampoon. And it's anything but a pompous promenade and a parade, like Pilate's prancing in an overpreened pony. Jesus is doing the opposite. This is an image of Jesus having fun with the over-the-top opulence and pomp and circumstance of Pilate, by way of over-the-top in his own way, an opposite way of being over-the-top to Caesar's show of authority. John Dominic Crossan and Marcus Borg, in their wonderful book called The Last Week, which I highly recommend, suggests that Jesus' entry to Jerusalem was a stage political demonstration. And we can ask what could have been demonstrated. And one thing is that God has chosen a Son of God, the one to reign as Lord. And it's not one of the worldly ways of military might and oppressive wealth. That's not how the Son of God, the real Son of God, works. Or it could be that God's chosen a human leader in a way that's very different from the men that lead Rome. Or it could be that the real Son of God comes from the opposite direction as Pilate, the east. Jesus comes all goofy looking and becomes humble and poor and awkward to boot on two animals, inexpensive ordinary beasts of burden, a donkey and a colt, both owned by somebody else, not even Jesus' animals. Jesus comes to the people full of fun and life and care. We can hear the story that way, that Palm Sunday is about that. And he comes to the people and they lay before him their very coats off their back and natural limbs, palm fronds from God's creation, first century Palestine red carpet, if you will. And they're shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven." And Hosanna is a joyful sound. And you know what it originally meant? It meant, "Oh, save now." Jesus, on his humble and humorous ride in Jerusalem, is understood to be the one who can save. It certainly wasn't Pilate. It certainly wasn't Rome. It was Jesus and the God that he represented and still represents. Jesus' way of love and nonviolence and inclusivity is radically in opposition to Pilate's show of crushing human power and opulence, of wealth that doesn't care about the poor. Jesus' extremely different way is the one that's understood to be the way of salvation. On that first Palm Sunday, there was a choice. It's the same choice that we have today. The way of an unjust imperial violence offered by the Pilates of the world who dominate by exclusivity, elitism, and force. Or the radical way of God, God's inclusivity, who reigns through nonviolent justice and love. Reigns through the acts of ordinary people, behaving in loving, caring, compassionate ways. Jesus can be understood to have made a seriously funny entrance into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. So funny that we can smile at it still. So serious, it caused the oppressed multitude to yell out, "Hosanna, oh save now." Jesus' joke made his point, and it's with us now 2,000 years later. Thanks for joining me. Please be careful out there, be prayerful, be safe, and go in peace, knowing that you are loved.